Hello again, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us this week as we continue our look at some of the ancestors. Some of our ancestors, our grandfathers, our grandmothers, not just in our family, but in the church as well. You may remember last week that we talked about a man named Matthew. We talked about how he was a tax collector, an apostle, and an evangelist. Some very difficult words, some strange words for us. But it reminded us of, in one way, how we are called and sent by Jesus to go tell people the good news of Jesus Christ, the good news of life and love and forgiveness in Jesus. You may remember last week, and I gave you an assignment last week to fill out your own family tree. And last week I tried to fill out some of the parts of my family tree, some of the names. I showed you some pictures last week of some of my ancestors, my parents and my grandparents, and even in some cases, my great-grandparents. And I said I would have to do some more research to fill in some of the gaps. Well, I've done a little bit of research, and I have filled in some of the gaps, but I've not been able to fill in all the gaps. So, for example, I told you last week that my grandmother's name was Gertrude. I discovered that her father's name was Thomas, and her mother's name was Adelaide. So I was able to add those to my family tree here. But on the other side of my family, I wasn't able to do so well. So that I was really only able to find one possible name for a great grandparent. That my mother's grandfather, my grandmother's father, might have been called Richard, but I don't know my grandfather's parents' names, and I don't know my grandmother's mother's name. So sometimes that happens in families, right? Sometimes families don't stay together enough for people to pass on the stories and the names. And we said last week that families come in a lot of different shapes and a lot of different sizes as well. So in my case, I'm not sure who my great grandparents were, but I know that I had great grandparents. And in some cases, some of our ancestors in the faith are the same thing. We don't know their names. But today, I want to help you think about some other folks who, in a way, might be ancestors in the faith. And I want to talk about a couple of names, Michael and Gabriel in particular. In fact, I want to talk about angels. Now, I don't know if this ever happens to you, but sometimes it happened to me, and sometimes in a way it still happens to me from time to time. If I have to go somewhere and I'm not really quite comfortable or sure that I want to go there, if, for example, you go into the basement, for example, when it's dark, or you have to go to maybe the doctor's office and you're not really sure how that's going to go, and you're a little afraid and a little worried, and sometimes when we have that, we want someone to go with us. Sometimes it might be a friend who might go with us. Sometimes it might be our mama or our dad. Sometimes it's nice, for example, if you're going to someplace and you're a little bit afraid, sometimes it's nice to have mom's hand or dad's hand when you're going to go, have them go with you. Well, I want to think about something that God does for us and sends to us when we're a little bit afraid, actually to help us to know that we're not alone. Jesus talks about how we have guardian angels. We can't see angels because angels don't have bodies like we do. We can't see them, but the Bible tells us that God has created angels as part of his plan. And angels do a lot of different things. Sometimes they do jobs on God's behalf. Sometimes they carry messages on God's behalf as well. So I want to talk today about Saint Michael and all the angels. I've actually brought some pictures with me. For example, this is a picture of Saint Michael. There, I try to get it that way. Of Saint Michael, he has a shield, he has a sword, because he helps defend us. He helps protect us. He's like one of those guardians, for example. And another picture as well. This is a really neat picture. This is something that someone drew, and that has, you can see here on this side, you have an angel with a sword. You can see the wings of the angel, and on this side we have another angel. So this is Michael, and this is Gabriel. So those are two angels. We call them archangels because they're sort of higher up in the angel ladder, so to speak. So this is a picture of that someone drew that makes them think of Saint Michael with the sword and the shield, and this is a picture of someone says of Saint Gabriel, who is holding a flower. And also, you probably hard to read that there, but it says Ave Maria. It means Hail Mary. And there's a couple of stories which I suspect you remember about angels. For example, when God planned for Jesus to be born, he sent an angel named Gabriel. And Gabriel told Mary that God wanted her to be the mother of this baby Jesus. And Gabriel told her that Jesus was going to be great and he was going to save his people, but God wasn't going to make her be the mother of the baby Jesus. She had to agree. She had to say yes to God's request that she be the mother of the baby Jesus. And so Mary, she accepted that very difficult job that God was asking her to do. She accepted the angel's message and she agreed to be the mother of our Savior. So we have some things, we're going to have some things for you guys to work on. For example, I've given you, this is a great picture of St. Michael. That's going to be in the material that we send out for you guys to look at. And I have a great picture of St. Gabriel that you can color if you want to. In fact, what you may be able to see here are those words, Ave Maria, Hail Mary. It's what the angel Gabriel said to Jesus' mother when he came with the message that God was asking her to be the mother of the baby Jesus, who was going to save God's people. So we've got those pictures. We also have some things for you guys to read to learn more about angels as well. And in just a moment, I'm going to talk another story about angels from the Bible. But I've actually asked Janice to work with you guys on a craft. And so Janice has a craft idea. In fact, I'm going to show you what you're going to need. So you're going to need things like coffee filters. So probably 4 or 5 coffee filters. They might come in some package like that. If you need some, let me know and we can drop some off. You're going to need a glue stick. You're going to need things like markers or crayons or colored pencils or things like that, whatever you want to use to color. And what you're going to need is maybe a bit of string or a bit of thread and a paper clip. So those are the things, just a few basic things that you need for your angel craft. And Janice will describe to you how the angel craft works. I better give her the coffee filters back.
So it's quite simple. You're going to separate your coffee filters. I have 5 here. And you can see a little center here, the little round center. You take your glue stick and you're going to glue in there and you're going to layer them on top of each other.
Just in the center there.
You're going to layer them on top of each other. And if you want to decorate your wings, you can use your markers or your crayons or even some glitter if you're allowed to have glitter, because it is messy, to decorate your wings. And decorate all the layers. It's really pretty. Father Stockel will show you with that one. It's really pretty if you decorate all the layers. And then after you've done your decorating, you're going to do this gluing like I am. Glue the centers. And once you have them all glued, you can see they're all in layers. You might not be able to see, the light's not so great, but you can see all my layers. You're going to take your coffee filters, and you're going to fold them in half so that you have like a half moon or a half circle. And then you're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut the top part so that it's rounded, just like that. See? It's got a nice round edge on the top. And then you're going to come to the bottom, and from the center, from the folded line out, you're going to cut like a triangle off. I might have cut that one just a little too much, but we'll show you on the other ones how they're done. And then you're going to get wings like this, you see? And they almost like they're flapping. And then what I want you to do is one last thing with your glue stick. You're going to put some glue right along the fold where you had made the fold. And then you're going to glue the two of them together so that you get almost like a spine of a book. Do you see that right there? Do you see where the wings are? And then once you're done that, you're going to take your paper clip to hold it together with your string on it. I have a piece of thread on mine, but with your string on it. And then you can take your wings and you could maybe hang them in a window or above your bed as a reminder that your angels, your guardian angel, is always with you. So we'll show you the one that's finished because it's pretty. Just put my paper clip on it. You can see the points. And you can see the wings, the different colored wings. And then you could just hang it somewhere. Like that.
So there's a craft for you guys to work on when you have some time. And if you need some supplies dropped off, I like the idea if you can find a way of hanging that above your bed at night, because that's a reminder, as Janice mentioned, it's a reminder that we're always surrounded by God's angels, that they're there to protect us and to keep us safe. And there's a story from the Bible. I actually put a copy of it in the material that we're going to send out to you. So I'm going to invite you to read it or to read it with your family. And it's a story about a man a long time ago who was the king. He was a king of a place, and he wanted to go to war because unfortunately kings like to go to war. They like to do battle. And every time he went to war against a country called Israel, which is where God's people lived, the the people of Israel always figured out where the trap was. And so the king thought that one of his advisors was a spy, that they were telling the king of Israel where his army was going to be so that the king of Israel would always be able to escape. And his advisor said, no, we're not spies. It's a man named Elisha, the prophet, who is telling the king of Israel. And so the king of Syria had a plan. He was going to send his army and he was going to get the prophet Elisha. And the prophet Elisha had someone who helped him, a servant who helped him. And the servant got up one morning and looked outside the city and saw that the city was surrounded by soldiers. It was surrounded by the army of the king of Syria. And the army of king of Syria was going to do some bad stuff. And he was very frightened, so he went to get the prophet Elisha. And he said, look, all these soldiers are here. And the prophet Elisha said, don't be afraid. And the prophet Elisha prayed that God would open the eyes of his servant. Not that he was actually blind, but actually to help him to see what we couldn't normally see. And the servant was able to see not just the army of the Syrians around the city, but he was able to see all the angels of God who were always surrounding us and keeping us safe and keeping us protected. One of the neat things about angels, anytime they show up in the Bible, is they almost always say, don't be afraid. And that's a good message for all of us. Because sometimes we get afraid. Sometimes we're afraid about what someone may do or what someone may say. Sometimes we're afraid of what other people may think. Sometimes we're afraid and we don't even know why we're afraid. But we know that in God we can trust. And we know that God sends his angels and they surround us and they protect us and they help us and they guide us. Just like St. Michael and St. Gabriel and all the other angels whose names we don't even know. But we know that God has made these angels and sent these angels. And I think God has sent an angel, a guardian angel, for each one of us. So you take that craft, that angel craft, and you do that. You put that above your bed just as a reminder that you don't have to be afraid because God has sent his angels to protect us every day. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this craft and this talk as we discover another one of our ancestors in the faith, St. Michael and St. Gabriel, the archangels, and all the other angels who are joining that collection that we're beginning to put together. St. Matthew, St. Michael, St. Gabriel. And next week, we're going to learn about two other saints, our ancestors in the faith, a man named Francis and a woman named Claire. So, look forward to having you join us next week as well as we continue this exploration of our ancestors in the faith. Thank you very much, and God bless.